There's this cop, he's white, he's fat, he's aging badly, and he's like in his 40s or 50s. And I've never met this man before, but he's been lying to everyone he met about me because he was stalking me. So he felt guilty and he was afraid that he was gonna get caught stalking a very young girl or woman. So he starts to lie about me, saying that I'm actually secretly a criminal. He's seen my types before, and he would tell this to everyone that he could come across, and there were people who believed him because he was a cop, and they thought that there was no reason for a cop to lie to them. Yeah, they're very naive. But yeah, he was the one who was telling like Dustin and like all these like random people that I've never met, like all these random famous people or people that I follow, like celebrities and stuff, about what a creepy person I am. There's a police warning out for me, a warrant for my arrest out for me, and I'm just this creepy stalker, and I've been known to steal from people, and I just stalk people all the time. These things are not true. In fact, that's what he does. But he's been telling this to the shelter staff and the shelter residents, and some of them actually didn't believe him. And that was the reason why my stuff was getting stolen, why people were randomly yelling at me and telling me to go back home, and like telling me that all these racial slurs, because that's what he was describing me as. I've never met this man before in my life. This is a complete stranger, and he was stalking me for a very long time apparently. And he was the reason why my schooling was going so poorly, and why all the police that I've met all seem to like have this, all seem to already know me or something.
Long branch.
And it was just so weird. I was like, why is he following me around? Why is he stalking me? The entire thing happened specifically because he wouldn't stop stalking me. That's it. I think somebody did tell him to like stop stalking me at one point, but he never did. And it resulted in him getting more and more anxious about the whole thing happening. And then he just kind of like, I don't know, I don't think he knows, he realizes that nobody actually believes him, and a lot of people were only going by what he was saying because they didn't want any problems. Because they're like, police are known to harass people when they're told no. But yeah, he just like randomly made up a bunch of stories about a woman he never really met. What a creep, right? No relation whatsoever. I've never met this guy. We don't have anything in common with each other, and this is a characteristics of a stalker, like a legitimate stalker. On top of which, looks plausible kind of because he had a job and he was older than me.
Alton Avenue.
Actually, it didn't really look plausible at all. But it seemed like this is kind of like a lonely guy, works a dead-end job, encounters some woman that he can't be with, and he starts stalking her. Right? Like, people who start stalking each other. It's so weird. Yeah, people who start stalking other people, they actually fit the description of what he's like, which is lonely, old, single, no friends, poor relationship or strained relationship with relatives and family members, and little to no interest outside of work. Yeah, those are stalkers. And then their victims are usually women who are well liked or well known, very attractive. Or typically women, not always. Is usually a lot more financially unstable than he is because of the age discrepancy. So stalkers are usually in their midlife to like later in life. And their victims are always very young girls, young women. And they do everything to like try to distress and scare the victim. They're trying to convince the victim that like their life is never going to change, never going to get better, nobody loves them, nobody cares about them, that kind of stuff. And obviously it's a lie. I mean, I get why if you were like a 14, 15-year-old girl and there was a creepy guy saying that to you, obviously I think I would cry. I'd be like, oh my god, why is he saying this? It's fucking weird. And like, I feel so distressed, like I just cry and stuff, and like, oh yeah.
Please
But
look
that's what he
right
was
for
doing. He was
traffic when
calling all these
exiting.
people that I don't even know these people, and he was like lying about me. And the only thing that I could think about was the fact that there was a person with an expired refugee status that they forgot to deport or even convict for a felony. And for whatever reason, I think since then he's had some sort of vendetta against me. I actually don't know if this is true. I have a feeling he has no idea about the case. I think he's completely unrelated to the case, and he's actually somehow managed to find me out of the blue
Next
and
stop,
started stalking me since
Brooklyn
then.
Avenue.
I actually don't know the psychology behind stalkers. I've never studied criminology. I know in criminology that they study this thoroughly and extensively. Like, apparently with some criminals, it's kind of like a compulsion. Like, that's just kind of how they behave, socially speaking, and they can't really stop it. That looks a lot closer to my profile. But yeah, it's just weird. So like with stalkers, like
Next stop,
they don't
Hayes
understand that the
Avenue.
person that they're stalking is the person that they're harassing. To them, it's somebody they have a relationship with, even though there's no relationship with them. So this is kind of what encourages their stalking behavior, and everything that the victim does just kind of reinforces this idea that
Next
they have a
stop,
relationship, or the
Carlisle
victim
Avenue.
is sending them messages. Like, he will stalk my social media profiles and everything and think that like I was making posts about him. I would be walking Preston outside on the park and he would think that I dressed up just for him. That kind of stuff. Like, this is how he perceives things. Like, when he sees me do stuff, he thinks I'm doing it specifically for him. He can't recognize that that's what he's doing,
Next stop,
right?
Logan Avenue.
But he thinks that's what I'm doing. It's just weird. This is with every stalker. There's been some notable stalking incidents with celebrities. I have no idea how they handle it. But I think I'm just gonna personally just ignore it. Honestly, I think it's been driving him insane that I'm not actually doing anything about it, and like I don't really care. I look like that girl from that movie. There's like this
Next
Two
stop,
Godfathers movie, and
Avenue.
it's about these three characters who find a baby by a dumpster. Yeah. So like, there's this one girl who's 16, and I look like that girl who's 16, and she's like this teenage runaway. She stabs her dad, runs away from home, and it's after her dad gives her a
Next
cat.
stop,
So like, her cat
Brooklyn
is like.
Avenue.
She had a kitten, and then she came back home, and she was asking him where the cat is. He couldn't answer, and she's like, what the fuck? And she got really angry and stabbed him. Then ran away. And then there's two other guys. One's a drag queen, and the other one is a con artist, I think. And they live at a park, and they had a heart. Like, they've been trying to convince a girl to go back home because they're like, oh, like there's no reason for such a young girl like you to be on the streets. Like, this is not life for you.
Next
You
stop,
shouldn't even be living like this.
Broadview Avenue.
And then they find a baby on Christmas. Like, there's an actual legitimate infant. And then they find that infant, and then they bring the infant back to. They try to find the infant's mother because it came with a note that's saying, I don't want this baby anymore. Please take care of the baby for me. Right? And then they're like, oh my god, we should find the baby's mom. And then that's what they decide, like, because they can't take care of the baby and they know the baby's gonna die alone or like beside the dumpster, so they're like, okay. And then they like gather the baby, and then they go on a whole adventure to find the baby's mom. Turns out the baby's mom's like super suicidal. Her marriage wasn't going well or something, and her husband was like, just apparently they were about to get a divorce or something like that, and then he's like, oh, I changed my mind, don't kill yourself, we'll try again in our marriage or something. And what else? During that entire time, apparently there's like some like immigrants in Japan. I think one of them was Brazilian or Portuguese or something, and then they were like speaking some sort of weird language, and she couldn't really understand them. And then she ends up meeting her dad back at the hospital after when they returned the baby. And I think it actually ends up showing that like there's the one guy who wasn't dragged. He said that he used to be like Olympic medalist for cycling, and he got into a gambling addiction, and then he just like lost everything, including his family. Like they didn't want to be anywhere near him or whatever. And then he ends up like having to go to the hospital for some health-related problems, and he ends up finding money to pay for it. And then he's like, "Oh, I miss my family. I want to go back home." So everybody just ends up going back home, except for the one in drag. I think the one in drag actually ends up working at a bar somewhere because there's a lot of drag bars in the area. So they went to a drag bar I think at one point. I don't remember. And
Go on down here. Go on down. Go on down here.
the girl ends up meeting her dad at the hospital because of the cycling guy who had to go to the hospital. And her dad and her was like, and her dad's like acting surprised as if like he never knew she was there. I have a feeling that somebody called the police along the way because they saw a young woman with some two older guys. It was really sketchy. Excuse me. And then it turns out like it's the police's daughter, but I'm like, okay, clearly it's a setup. Like, oh, you're the cop's daughter and you find an infant, and now your job is to bring the infant back to the mother. And on the way, one of them is a sick man who's helping you, who ends up at the hospital where your dad's going to visit because for his work. This happens to be there. Fuck. Yeah, that's why I'm like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. Like, I think the whole point of the story is that it actually doesn't end with her and her dad reconciling. It just shows her and her dad meeting each other after all that. And
Next stop, River Street.
like, do you still want to live on the streets? I don't know if they hired two people to like scare her into going back home, or like forgiving her dad for giving away her cat. That's the entire thing. That's how it all started. Her dad gave her a cat, and she got angry and she stabbed him. And she was really fat, and then she started living on the streets and lost a bunch of weight.
Next stop, Sumac Street.
But yeah, I was wondering if like the guy's cyclist guy was like it's a metaphor for the fact that he kept on doing the same thing over and over again with like different people, and like people start to notice that he didn't actually have a personality or like anything new, and he was just using the same tricks over and over again. And everyone got tired of it. Like he was scamming people with the same scam with different people over and over and over again. He said the scam worked one time and it never worked since, and people got pissed about it. I guess his family found out that he scammed them or something, or he scammed some people before, and they got tired. They're like, "Excuse me?" And they're like, "Get out of my house." You know what? And then yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm thinking
Next
about.
stop, Sapphire Street.
But yeah. Anyway, yeah, that guy who's a cop who's white and middle-aged and ugly and fat, I don't know him. And now there's like all these weird, strange homeless people following me around, saying all these things that Dustin was saying to me, and I'm like, Dustin was telling this guy what I was doing because he genuinely believes that the cop was telling the truth. He's like, yeah, you know what? I've seen types like her before. She's actually a criminal. She's very dangerous, but she just hasn't done anything yet.
Next stop,
And I'm like, who would believe this fucking bullshit? It's clearly fictional. He's delusional. And then Dustin's like, oh yeah, you're right. Also, he's a drug addict, and he has very little to no education. He dropped out of high school, I think. And then he's like, yeah, you're right. And then I was like, and then I don't know why they keep mentioning stuff that Dustin said. They think that I care about their opinions of me, but what I actually care about is that they're so noisy. And they won't leave me alone. It's bothering me because it's like having a bunch of flies in my face, you know? Like causing buzzing of a mosquito. I just want to smack it and watch it die. And it's just like, why is it like all these bzzz? It's annoying. Right? It's like, it doesn't even matter because they're not saying anything meaningful. It's not even true, but it's like, bzzz, bzzz, pay attention to me, bzzz, and I'm like, think the problem is that they think that they're important people and that their opinions matter to me, and I'm like, I don't care. Honestly, like, I don't care what they have to say. I just don't understand why they won't leave me alone.
Ontario Street.